Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me okay. I just got back to the hotel. We're in Breckenridge, Colorado. And so, beautiful mountains, beautiful scenery all around Colorado. And so, on the car ride back to the hotel, Breckenridge, we're surrounded by tons of just high mountains and everything. It's just so beautiful. And yesterday, Sunday, Sunday yesterday, we went to, which was our first day here in Colorado, we went to Pikes Peak, which is near, let's see, Monteca Springs. Am I saying that right? I don't know, but it's definitely near Colorado Springs. Montague Springs. That's it. Montague Springs. We went to Pikes Peak, and at the summit, it's at least 14,000 feet, and so that's pretty high. And so, as you're getting up there, the oxygen it gets less and less, and it gets more scarce. And so, which also means it gets harder for you to breathe. I can hardly breathe up there. And so, yeah, that was kind of a struggle. But anyway, on the ride from I'm sorry, Montague Springs to Breckenridge, as I said, we're surrounded by mountains. I was thinking, because I haven't done a lesson in a long time, so I was thinking, what is a quick lesson I can do right here in Colorado? So I was thinking, and a connection came to me, several connections. And of course, being surrounded by mountains, that obviously sparked something in my mind. Okay, what are some key biblical events that happened on or near mountains? And so, two very important events in the Bible came to my mind. First one in the Old Testament is, of course, Moses and Mount Sinai. God comes down to give him the Ten Commandments and the rest of the, I believe, 613 Levitical laws. So that one, and then there's, of course, Sermon on the Mount with Jesus Christ giving all these commandments, and a really beautiful sermon all around. And so it's kind of going to talk to you about that and just kind of tie everything together. And so first I'll be reading from Exodus, and just to give you some context or background. Of course, Moses, who's born in Egypt, firstborn, non-Egyptian woman. Hebrew women. They had to babies weren't allowed really because it's so crowded in the Pharaoh didn't want it, so they had to throw their babies, or they had to toss them on the Nile and float down the river. And so I believe one of Pharaoh's daughters, she found Moses and she picked him up and she raised him. And so fast forward a few years later, he was 40. Gets called by God to deliver his people, the Hebrews, the Israelites. So he does that. And of course, the ten plagues happen. Then finally, we reach Mount Sinai, and that is where I'll be reading chapter 19, verses 1 through 7. So let's read. And the third month after the Israelites left Egypt, on the very day they came to the desert of Sinai. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountains and said, "This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a king. You will be for me a king, from a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." So, of course, Moses gets called by God to because back then things were just not morally sound. I mean, after Moses leaves Sinai, the catches is Aaron, the high priest, and other priests. First they made the golden calf, the golden idol. So a lot of idolatry and a lot of other things are happening back then. And so God's listen, look, you can't have this. Okay, you have to be more moral and stuff. And so that's the background of that. And so and so I connected this, of course, one of the mountains. I connected that with the Sermon on the Mount, but also this kind of rings the bell of how Jesus was called. let's go back to Matthew, Sermon on the Mount. It's on verse 5 through 7, so I won't read the whole thing. But before I go into that, I would just give you some context of that. So of course, Jesus is born. John the Baptist is born first, and then Jesus comes next. And then of course, when it's time for Jesus to start his ministry, just 30. Actually, as a little backstory, on Sunday, I watched a really cool video. It's about Israel. It's called Israel, the Rabbi, the Road, and the Rock, something like that. And actually, I learned a cool fact. It's actually, the most viewed theory about Jesus and what he did before he started his ministry was a carpenter. Well, it turns out that's actually not the case. It really surprised me, interested me. What he actually was a stonemason. So yeah, that is significant because there are tons of passages in the Bible about stones. Jesus, he's the main cornerstone. The builders will throw the cornerstone out. There's another one on the wise man built his house on the rock. There's tons of instances like that. That the stone is the core. It's the foundation. It's everything. And so that really interested me, and I hope that interests you also. Anyway, so when he was 30, he got baptized by John. After that, he goes into the desert, gets tempted by Satan. Of course, Jesus prevails as always. And then he calls his disciples, Peter, all those, Peter, I want to make you a fisher of men. All that happens, and then so finally, of course, before this, he heals the sick, and then finally reaches the mountain. I can't remember exactly which mountain it was, but of course we all know it as the Sermon on the Mount. So I'll just read you the first little passage, chapter 5, verses 1 through 3. So it says, "Now when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciple came to him, and he began to teach them." So, really, of course, Moses and Jesus. Of course, Jesus is of course God, our Messiah, but they're very similar and significant. I mean, they're both key and integral parts of the Bible, of God's entire story. And of course, you got Abraham, Father Abraham, all those. But of course, they're a major part too. But Moses and Jesus, Moses in particular, in the Old Testament, I think. So yeah, the connection I got is, Moses was called by God to kind of give moral teaching to the Israelites. And Jesus was called by God to really spread hope. And of course we have the Beatitudes, those who are meek will inherit the earth. All these really peaceful teachings and sayings. And of course, do not worry. My favorite part: do not worry, because I'll get major anxiety all the time. But all those teachings, and so it really just comes together. Just this nice little clash of new and old. And back then, when the Old Testament was written, eternity wasn't really written in mind. That was the Old was really written for the here and now. And so, of course, the Levitical laws, some of those are dietary laws, like pigs. I forgot the verses. Cheweth the cud, or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, that's a little blend of new and old, now and eternity. So I thought that was really interesting and neat. That's really it for me. I just want to show you that, and I just wanted to get a lesson out, because I know I've done that in a while. But yeah, I really love that. I really love putting that together for y'all. So yeah, leave your thoughts down in the comments. Like this video, share it with friends if you want, and if you're new, subscribe. Appreciate that. Alright guys, that's it for me. Hope to see y'all soon. God bless.